clients, especially before. So, hello, Miss Pilar.
That's real. That's real good stuff, man. I like it. That's good stuff. You guys probably know is Michael is much more of a stat guy than I am. I'm that I keep my little funny is I jump in the water and once I'm in there I figure out if it's hot or cold while I'm in the water. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not so. So I'm an eye test kind of person, but I can tell you as we kind of talk, we kind of just start going into it a little bit now too, is that you from an eye test standpoint too, and just the way certain things are and feel, you can already feel and see some differences and some changes in the market. Right now, if you're paying attention, not necessarily a market crash or anything like that, but you can feel the difference, and we are getting a little bit more inventory, and there's an uptick there. You are starting to see some price reductions. You are starting to maybe not have 50 offers on the property, but you have two. Just different little things, though, that are that are changing. So I would like to start, and this and a lot of my talk here, and I would like everybody's participation, and you guys give me your thoughts and everything else, is that I believe that you have to look at real estate in two aspects. You have to look at it from a macro economical standpoint. That's like wider out all of real estate and the kind of what's going on in trends. And then you have to bring that down to a micro economics, which is more of a localized things that are going on with the market. You know what I'm saying? Because real estate is a localized, investment or business versus just like that's what goes on in Idaho does not necessarily go on in California. But you can take trends, you can take finances, you can take certain things and kind of get an idea of where things maybe are or are possibly going. So here's just my experience. My experience is number one is whenever we have gone into situations where the market has slowed for real estate or been more of a quote unquote even market or even been a buyer's market, is that number one, it does not happen suddenly in the sense that there's a crash or there's a rise. But what does kind of happen suddenly is that things kind of stop. That doesn't mean they don't stop to the point where there's like no sales. But for instance, you can go from 1 week and you're getting, you'll put a property on the market and you'll get, a whole bunch of calls, a whole bunch of showings, and you can feel that activity. And all of a sudden, you can put the same house on the market if the market's changed a little bit and get none of that. I know we've personally taken a couple of listings here that are recent, that if these same listings, if we'd have took them, bless you, if we'd have took these same listings, say, just 3 or 4 months ago, that we would have, if we'd have took them 3 or 4 months ago, we'd have had a whole bunch of activity. We'd have had a whole bunch of stuff going on that's not actually happening right now. So you can feel that change, because what you start to feel is, at least what I'm saying, this is just from past experience. I know there are people on the internet and there's people that are gurus, and I'm not a guru. I've just been at it a long time. But that they're saying, things along, oh, the market's not going to crash. And they talk about the inventory is still, more of a buyer's market inventory because, or a seller's inventory because, there's still less homes for sale and there are buyers on the market, and all of that stuff's true. But let me explain this to you as well, though. There may be still more buyers than sellers, but there are less buyers that can qualify today than there were a couple of months ago. Because when the interest rates go from 3% to 5.5%, then there is a part of your buying pool that no longer can qualify whether they want to purchase or not. And the property values are higher. I also think that if the lower end of the market, your entry level buyers or whatever price range that is, they have to buy. Because if they're not buying, that our mid-level and others cannot move up. So then you only get into buyers that have the ability to purchase no matter what's going on in the marketplace. Then you have, in my opinion, what I keep mentioning is consumer sentiment. And what I mean by that is that you guys, I don't know. I mean, I'm doing this. I do this, and I think that it's naturally human for some of us to do this. Is that you begin to feel squeezed when you go to the grocery store, and now your eggs, your bacon, your milk, all of that stuff has gone up by a huge amount. But, a lot of times, like I know for myself too, you'll go to the store, you go to something, and you'll know something's gone up a little bit. You go, oh, that's a little bit higher, but you don't think about it the same. But when you go and you feel like a dramatic raise in something, you feel a dramatic raise. Like, if your eggs go from $2 to $5, you're like, well, what's happening? Or your bacon's at $12, stuff like that. Then you go to the gas station. And I mean, hey, we all got to get gas, and you can start making whatever. But now all of a sudden, your gas is $6, $7, whatever it is, at the pump. Now, if you're a consumer, you begin to, so now you're starting to pay attention. Then you have to figure that a good portion of our consumers, where their wealth and their down payments and a lot of their money is in their 401ks or in investments that they have made, and then they all of a sudden. You look up, and I was saying this on one of our other, talks. I think last week, your 401k or your savings is at 100,000 in January, and now here we're coming into June, and that same 100,000 is 40,000. And that is that. And if you've invested in some of the FANG stocks, look at our own EXP stock. Our company is fantastic. I mean, all of our financials are killing it. Our growth is killing it. And look where our stock is. That's just the way that it is. So if you're a consumer, particularly depending upon where you're at, it's not necessarily that you won't buy or that you won't sell, that you won't do these things. But what you will start to do is you'll start to think about it a little bit more. You might take into consideration a little bit more before you begin to make certain moves, right? Now, again, the other thing that happens, and that's going to happen, again, you guys will probably see this if you haven't checked it out already, is that there are going to be certain properties that you put on the market that it's just like January. It comes on the market, it's really hot, people come by and it's multiple offers and blah, 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 and it sells, and that's which is great. But now what about those properties that didn't do that, right? So now what are those owners thinking? Wow, well, Michael just listed the house around the corner. You've had our house on the market like 10 days already. And Michael had all this activity and his home is in escrow. And the funny part about that is that they may be similar in price. They may be similar in specs. They may be similar in some things. But now what is the first thing that homeowner does? The homeowner then begins to blame you. Well, they want to know what you're doing. Or they want to know you, they want you to run more ads, or they want you to run more things, stuff like that. That is happening now. And you're going to see that happen a little bit more as we go further into whatever we go into. And I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, because I don't follow it daily. And I'll tell you why I don't follow it daily after I mentioned the stat, though, is that I had a lender that I was talking to that is a pretty popular. He's not someone that I use on an ongoing basis, but he's someone that's very popular and is well known, at least out in the Santa Clarita Valley. And he brought to my attention that although you keep hearing the rhetoric that the interest rates are rising, and you hear about what the Federal Reserve is going to do, you hear all of that stuff, right? And he actually mentioned that the interest rates came back down last week. That he actually had rates that were at 5.25, that were at 4.5 last week. So it's fluctuating, but the consumer and what they're hearing now is that the rates are rising, and that the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates. Money's going to be harder to get, et cetera, and all that's true. but that the rates went down last week, because there's a disconnect on all that sort of stuff. So I think that one of the things that we have to do is we have to make sure that we're staying on top of certain things like that, and make sure that we are also allowing the consumer, our particular buyers and sellers, to know and to understand that. Um, I'm not an interest rate follower, meaning that, like myself personally, when I say I'm not a follower, I don't go every day and look at what the interest rates are and do all of that. I know what's going on, to a certain degree, but I don't follow it like that. The reason I don't follow it like that is no matter what the interest rate is, people need to buy or sell. And I'm not a loan officer. So since I'm not a loan officer, I'm referring them to my loan people that we do for any of that information. If someone were to ask me, I can talk to them intelligently, but I've never been that person. I mean, when Pilar and I, when we bought our first place, I mean, I always tell that story, but we had to buy the interest rate down. We paid it down to 12%, and we bought it. You say so it's just so you buy. People just make adjustments, and then you have to understand and intelligently speak to them about that. And before I begin to ask some of you guys some stuff that you guys have going on, I want to tell you this too. In a market that either is shifting, or a market that is either consolidating some, or maybe it's flipping over, there's a couple of things that you should probably do. The first one is take a honest look at your expenses, what you're spending on, and look at the things that you are doing that are actually adding value and bringing business, stuff that you can really account for and look at and say, I'm getting market share because of this, I'm getting buyers and sellers because of this, I'm closing escrow because of this. And the things that are that you have that scream that out, you should probably increase them. You should probably add more to your budget, or add more to your lead generation time, whatever it is to that. Then you need to look at the stuff that you have that is not producing that for you, because what will happen is the markets are moving the way they move right now. We all will have certain $20 fees, $10 fees, $50 fees. You'll have a whole bunch of stuff that is really not generating business for you, that you don't necessarily need. I tell you to cut that stuff out, or redirect those monies into activities that are actually adding value to helping you do business. That's one. The other thing is, you really, really need to manage expectations. Manage expectations of the buyers and the sellers. So for the sellers, for instance, the sellers are still hearing that everything sells in multiple offers, and all I do is price it right, and blah, 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 and my house is going to sell. And the house that sold, for, $1 million next door, mine is better. It's got a better view. I'm talking about one of my listings right now, and we're going to be on the market for more money. Well, yeah, that's what it was 4 months ago, and we were talking about it. Then you have to learn to manage that expectation, because it's going to be a conversation that you're going to have down the road when that house doesn't sell right away. I'm actually going to show a house after we get off of this Zoom, and the house has been on the market 22 days, and it's currently has no offers on it, and they've already dropped the price $20,000. It's only been on the market 22 days. And it's in a lower end price range, for out here, for out in the Santa Clarita Valley, right? 22 days is really not a long time. Remember, I've been in business long enough where I've had listings that we were taking year-long listings, because it might be that long before they sell, right? So you want to manage those expectations off of the top. The other thing that you want to do with sellers is you want to bombard them with information in the beginning, because you want them to see. So like for us that are using, if you use KV Core, for instance, if you're into using KV Core for your listings, pay pay that $45 or $60 to get a boost on your property. And make sure you add the seller's email address and the seller's phone number for text. Why? Because they will receive on a daily basis the analytics from online of how many people are looking at their home, how many people actually then clicked on it and viewed it, and how many quote unquote leads they are. So not only does it obviously give you the opportunity to gain more business and add more people to your database, but what you're looking for is you're looking to overservice your seller some so that you can bombard them with the information so that you can then have a conversation on how that they need to reduce their price. See, because here's what's happened. Here's what will happen if you don't do that. If you don't do that, when the seller's going to say to you, well, Elgin, nobody's come to look at my house. So why should I reduce the price? You're not getting anybody here to look at it. Because remember, the seller doesn't know what we do or don't do. They don't follow us all day. They don't look at the calls that we make. They don't see any of the stuff that we do to help market their homes. So now they're getting something on an ongoing basis from a different source. So what I tend to tell sellers is this. I'll say, hey, listen, I just want you to know is my marketing team, I'll make it sound like it's just me or just Pilar and I want them to look at our marketing team is put in our marketing plan in, and you're going to receive updates of what's going on with the stuff that we're doing online. And this is only partial to some of the stuff that we're doing, but you'll be able to get and see on a regular basis. Because why do I do that? Because when the seller comes back to me and says, well, well, Elgin, I mean, reduce the price, but nobody's come to look at it yet. And I will be willing to maybe look at lower offers, but why should I reduce the price? So then I can say, well, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the one thing that we do know is this. We've had 1,200 people look at your home online on these sources in the last 5 to 7 days. 1,200 people have looked at your house. If you look here at the impressions and people have actually looked at it and liked it enough price-wise and how it shows to then look and investigate further, so that 1,200 is down to 25. And out of those 25 people, they did not, unfortunately, for whatever reason, like the house enough to come take a look at it. And guess what people do when they're looking at homes online? People are looking at homes online, not necessarily to go see what they want to see. What they're doing is they're eliminating what they don't want to see. Because people don't want to, gas is high for everybody. It's high for us, it's high for them too. They don't want to go look at homes and look at things that necessarily necessarily know that they don't want. They only want to go look at stuff that excites them as well. So you have to begin to use these types of things in dialogue, particularly with your sellers. Now, the flip side of this is going to be, as it slows or becomes more even, what are buyers doing right now? Buyers are used to being in multiple offers. They're used to seeing properties sell, within a day or 2 days and all that. So now you have a buyer and the house has been on the market 20, 25 days. It could just be 10 days. And when you check on it, there are no offers. And the buyer's starting to see this. So now what does the buyer want to do? So now all of a sudden the buyer is coming to the property and the buyer is like, well, this house hasn't sold in 10 days and everything else in the neighborhood sold like in an hour. So if it hasn't sold in 10 days, there should be something wrong with it or it's priced too high. So now we should be able to come in and ask the closing costs and take 5% off of the price and then yada, 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 right? Because I'm telling you, that's what the buyers are going to do. If you're not experiencing it and doing now, they are going to do this if everything stays the way it is right now and the way that it's going. So now you have to have dialogue and you have to set up expectations for that. And the expectations, well, number one, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I get that, but we can't force a seller to sell the house for less than they're willing to sell it for. And we want to get you into the marketplace. We know the interest rates have been rising, they're fluctuating. If this home meets your business, we right now have an opportunity to try to negotiate something, or we have the opportunity for you to get into a house. And just remember, 2 months ago, we wrote 10 offers on all these different properties and you were not able to get any of them. So now we got an opportunity. So you have to set the expectations a little bit differently, on both buyer and seller as you're navigating your business.
Now, remember, when you're doing things like this, you're setting stuff up. It may not work on each and every client, but it'll work on some, or it'll put you in a position to where maybe down the road, particularly with your sellers, and you continuously talk to them, and that you'll be able to work them into the price reduction. I'm doing something this week for a property, and I know Pilar would tell you, I never do like brokers opens or open houses or anything like that. I've got a broker open set, a Twilight broker open set for Friday. I'm putting up. I gotta buy some open house signs to put them up because I don't have any, because I don't do open houses. So we're gonna have all of this kind of stuff set up. But what am I doing? I'm setting this up for them to reduce their price. I mean, they've got a great house. It shows really well, and it's also a little bit higher than the last sale in their track. And there are less buyers in that price range than there are in some other price ranges. So guess what? I need to put them in position to where they understand what's going on and what's happening, so that they can then, so that I can go to them and say, hey, now remember, you said you needed to, you're relocating. You need to be out of here by the end of July. You were talking about selling to have a lease back. We're not going to we're not going to have to worry about no lease back. We got to worry about a buyer. And then but I have to have some ammunition when I'm giving them that, to show them that we've been doing this, that, and the other, and that's where we're at. So, okay, I've talked enough. So let me go around the horn here a little bit. And Michael, I'll start with you. Unmute yourself. Tell me what you're experiencing right now, and how things are. Anything that you notice different, or whatever, or how you're planning. Anything you're changing. Tell me what you're seeing right now.
Well, I'm noticing some of those things that you're saying. Definitely, that the time on the market's lasting a little bit. I'm actually in an escrow where I think, a month ago or a month and a half ago, we would have been pushed out. There's some issues, and we had to wait for to release some contingencies, and we're negotiating, and they were ready to say, okay, let's send a notice of reform, let's get going. And now I think they're starting to notice, hey, if we back out of this, we're going to end up getting lower than what we started out with. So for the buyer side, it's been nice for that. I mean, at least for this specific transaction. But yeah, buyers have been, like you said, each side has their own perspective, and the sellers, they want to, hey, we're still going up. The prices haven't dropped that much, and people are still interested because there's not that much inventory. So my house is worth, believe my house is worth more than the last one, and the buyers are still, well, it's slowing down and rates are going up. We can't afford it. So um, I've noticed a lot of that, people slowing down, or just take the buyers, especially those at entry level, taking that break. Hey, oh, the rates are up. Let me pause and let me kind of see where we're at and see where the rates go, or if the prices are going to drop. Because if they see a little bit of a movement coming down, um, then they say, well, prices are coming down, so let's wait a couple months, and then they'll be down more into a range that I can afford. So um, it's just with that. And like you said, I like to track the numbers and everything, but I always tell everybody, there really is, when's the time to buy? The time to buy is now, because if the interest rates go up, you got in a great time. If the interest rates go down, you can refinance, but you got the house at probably a better value. So um, that's part of what I use when I speak with people. But that's kind of what I've been seeing when I see the trends, and it's just basically getting that motivation going and getting that, like you said, the expectations. So once I explain to the sellers this is what we're going through, and like you said, provide that information and show them what I'm doing, so you can check in, and that's a huge part, checking in with both your buyers and sellers, so that they know what's going on and what you're doing. Then they'll have that confidence in you and keep going. So
Well, that's great. Thanks, Michael. And hey, I'm gonna get Keith to unmute himself too. But before I do, I want to give a shout out. You guys see this young lady, Carla Williams, that is on our feed now. So Carla actually just got her license, and she's now in the process of joining our success team. So Carla, I know that you're at work, but I want to say thank you for jumping in and out best you can, and I want to welcome you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Oh, no, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. And Carla's husband, Gene, and I, even long before he and Carla got together, bought a house from us out here in Santa Clarita, have known forever, and it was an honor that once she got her license, that he kind of even insisted that she at least talk to us. So I think that that's fantastic. So hey, Keith, man, let me hear what. Let me give me some ideas, man. What are you experiencing? What are you seeing right now? What are your thoughts? What are you working toward? Let's give us a couple of words.
Well, actually, you probably may want to pass on me because I'm new. I'm still studying. I just completed insurance, so I've just started real estate. So I'm coming in backwards. I'm listening to the experts and I'm learning the market before I even enter it. So I'm pretty new. So in terms of how I see from a buyer's perspective, I've been looking for a home in Vegas for years, for about 4 years, and I'm seeing the market go up and down. And from a buyer's perspective, I think you guys are absolutely dead on right. The buyers are now trained to expect bells and whistles, yes, a higher price. And the first thing I do when I'm looking is I eliminate everything. I go into my filter, I set my price, I set my rooms, and I'm looking. The first thing I'm looking for is that kitchen. How's that kitchen look? How's it open? So these are the things you guys are used to and you see all the time. And this is from a buyer's perspective. So the elimination of all the things I don't want and fitting in a price that I do. But now my mind is trained that way because the market has been so high. So now in terms of re-educating the buyer, like you say, it is crucial. And the seller telling my cousin tried to sell this house for $900,000 in Inglewood, but the house has on built in 1923 has a history of building code issues. But he wanted cash for the house. He wanted the house at that price, and he had to take it off the market because maybe a year ago he would have gotten what he wanted for that house, but I think he entered into the market right as he was getting ready to turn, so he didn't get those buyers that he expected, and he didn't get the offers that he got or wanted. They didn't happen, so it's a brisk turn. So I'm watching like you guys, but I'm learning at the same time. That's why. So I'm here to listen and take it in from the experts. So I'll pass it back to you.
No problem. Hey, so first thing with that, number one, thank you for attending. And if you guys listen, you know, one of the things that, like, I've been doing this a really, really long time, right? So one of the things that I think that happens to us when you're doing something for a long period of time is sometimes you forget to look at something from the perspective of the people that you're helping. So it is great to hear someone who actually is not on our side of the table yet talking about his experience as a buyer and actually even confirming some of the things that we're just talking about on how he's looking or not looking. I'd also tell you this, Keith, we all start here from the same, at the same point, and we all started in different types of markets. So, you know, you're at the right place at the right time, my man. You're at the right place at the right time. So, Stacey, I'm gonna pick on you for a minute. Give me some of your perspective of what you're seeing, and it's some of you guys that don't know that Stacey also was in the mortgage side of this for a long, long time. So she has an even more unique perspective of certain things. So go ahead, Stacey. I'm gonna give you the floor for a couple minutes.
Hi, thanks. Well, I'm working with a buyer right now. So what did come to my attention is new home buyer programs are starting. So once the market starts these shifts and they're trying to bring in new buyers, I've been made aware of a lot of new home buyer programs that are starting and some that are coming up. Unfortunately, for most of the market we're in, they don't apply, you know, due to people's incomes. So it's trying to tell people, great, you make a lot of money, but sorry, this isn't going to, you know, work for you. So that's the one thing I've been turned on to is more home buyer programs. And then always the question, like you said, when is a good time to buy? And it's always a good time to buy if it makes sense. So you can't win if you're not playing. You've got to be active. You've got to be on there. And you're right, with interest rates, what I see is the market does have to come down if the rates continue to go up, but that's only because of my background. I always knew when the market would stop because incomes are not going up. I mean, that's just, you know, then we get more of those special programs and then we know we're in trouble. We start doing that again. And I guess it's always finding their motivation. Like my buyer right now, his motivation is he has a 2 and a 4-year-old. He has him in private school, living in an apartment in the Valley. He wants Santa Clarita. He wants the good school districts, trying to find property in the best school districts with no Melrose. There's a lot of challenges there. But what we're also seeing is I go with the price they want to pay first, as opposed to their max. Sometimes that's good or bad. And what he's finding is that when his price range, what he wants to pay are 2 bedrooms, and he wants 3 bedrooms. So, keeping them on the MLS, available properties. What I just experienced with KV Core, and I don't know if anybody else did, when I set him up on KV Core to look for properties, the properties that came up listed the listing agent's contact information first. It had me as the agent, but it had and that's never changed, that buyers are going to think they're going to get a better deal if they talk to the listing agent. So I shied away from using KV Core for the buyers for right now. But from what you just shared with me for the sellers, when we get a listing, that's a good format. Is that true?
So I think a lot of that it goes into with the expectation and the dialogue, as well. So one, yes, they have to do that in KV Core or any other service. The listing agent still has to be listed. Now, we've changed some things where it has really increased the amount of people, both past clients and the new people that are coming into the system, on how often that they're looking. And that's actually helping us a lot. So one of the things I just implemented was in the KV Core thing, as well as I just went ahead and started doing the core videos, so that when they're coming in, I'm reaching out to them with a video now from everybody that just comes in through KV Core. I was already doing this through BombBomb, but through KV Core, it's allowing it to stay within their profile, and they were able to track it. I believe that with the buyers, though, and I get the whole part about, they come to listing agent, because I'm on both sides. As a listing agent, sometimes they come to me directly, and my response to them is probably different from a lot of other agents. And then, from the buyer side, when we're working with them, I just think that there has to be a conversation with them to where you allow them to know that, hey, listen, I know that, the listing agent, you understand that they are being paid really to represent the seller's best interest. I'm not saying they're not going to give you their best attention as well, but the sellers is who employed them. And what the sellers are looking for is the seller is looking to get the highest amount of money that they can get for the least amount of trouble or whatever else that they can. I say that you're looking to get the best deal that you can as well. Well, that doesn't work. You can't get the best deal, and the seller can't get the highest amount of money, and you guys go necessarily to that one listing agent. So what you need to have as a buyer's agent, you need to have someone that's going to look out and represent you and represent and get the best interest and stuff for you as well. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to get you a better price or better this or better that, but there's more to this transaction. There's more to you purchasing homes than just the buy and the sell. What's going to go on through the transaction? Who's going to help you and really look through the disclosures for you? Who's going to really make sure that the physical inspections, the appraisal, you start going into some of the things that you do other than the fact that you just show them houses. And I think that when you allow people to remember that there's a certain value to what you're doing and why they should use you. Now, again, nothing works 10 out of 10 times, but if that saves you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buyers from just automatically just going to the listing agent. Because I'll tell you, sometimes as a listing agent, I'll get people that'll come to me and they'll say, we only want to work with the listing agent. Well, that puts up a red flag to me as the agent. Because a lot of times what they're basically telling me is they want to get a deal. Well, you know what? The sellers didn't hire me to get the buyers a deal. The sellers hired me to get their home sold. And then the first thing that they think of is, oh, well, yeah, you can give me a better deal, or you can kick me back some money, or all the other stuff that, and I know some people do certain things, I ain't doing none of that. So, I don't like nobody, I don't get in nobody's pocket, and I don't want nobody in mine. So I would just say, that one of the things that we have to do and not be afraid to do either. It'd be afraid to do is have certain conversations. I don't even want to call them fierce conversations, just to have certain authentic, honest conversations with buyers and sellers and not worry about the outcome. And the way that you do that, though, where the outcome is less to you, is that you lead generate more. See, like I've heard you say a couple of times when you're talking about this situation, you're talking about you're working with a buyer right now, and that a buyer, well, see, when you start and you're working with a buyer or a seller, well, then all of a sudden, where the human nature is, this is all I got right now. I got to make this thing work. It's just human nature. It is what it is. But now let's suppose in that same tone you said, so, one of these 5 buyers I'm working with is doing this. See, all of a sudden, that one buyer that may not be working within the realm of how you want them to work for your business, they fall down the food chain a little bit. I mean, you get rid of them, but they fall out of the category of where they get the majority of your time. Same thing with sellers, same thing with that. So the key, in my opinion, to being able to feel comfortable in having those kind of conversations with the buyers and the sellers is to make sure that you have more buyers and sellers so that you can tell them the truth based upon how you do business. And if for some reason, it doesn't work for them, more importantly, if it doesn't work for you, they, what I mean? Hey, some people go to McDonald's, you don't want a Big Mac, go on over and get you a Whopper at Burger King. McDonald's ain't gonna close up because you didn't get a Big Mac, right? So you go on down there and get you a Whopper, it's all good. There's a whole bunch of real estate people out here, everywhere. I don't need to, there's a whole bunch of people buying and selling and all that. I don't need everybody. At this stage in my career, I do not want everybody. I don't want to do 1,000 deals a day and all that. There's times when that was those types of things were the goals. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to have a good, sustainable business that is comfortable and that fits what we're looking to do. So I'm going to ask my wife here, Pilar, to jump in. Because Pilar works with even more of the buyers than I do. And although she listens to me all the time, she has her own mind and does business on her own as well. So what are you thinking, babe? I mean, Pilar.
Yeah, I definitely do things my own way, but I listen because I do not believe in trying to reinvent the wheel. So when the master lives in my house, I listen. It's like having E.F. Hutton. But what I've been noticing, like normally I don't work with sellers. That's always Elgin's forte, but I've had some friends reach out to me recently asking me to list their homes. And so, I'm always kind of paying attention to what he's doing and what he's saying and what's happening with the sellers that he's working with. But I have found that one of the things you guys have said earlier is so true. You have to really stay in touch with these sellers because the market is shifting, period. I mean, no matter where you are, what your price point is, it is shifting. And you do not want to be that agent that doesn't sell a house in the first week and then your seller's looking at you sideways. So with that being said, it's so important, even if it's just to say, no one called me today, you need to be in touch with these sellers so that they know that you have not forgotten about them or have moved on to something more relevant at that particular point. So, and obviously keeping track of, like what Elgin was saying with boosting listings, and so that you can see exactly how many people are looking at these homes on social media. It's important. At least you can give them that information because that tells the seller that yes, in fact, you are engaged, and yes, in fact, you are still doing everything you can to get their home sold. I had a conversation the other day with a seller whose house has been on the market for just under a month, and that's a long time right now in our market. And I was having a conversation with her in regards to reducing her price, and she did not want to hear about that. I said, all right, I didn't want to like strong arm her or anything, but I said, okay, we'll revisit it in a week or two, because I wanted to set that up in her mind that we're still going to talk about this. You didn't shut me down. And so, you know, but I want her to see it's still slow. This is still happening. I know you still want your house sold, but you know, I don't want to make you feel like I'm pressuring you, but I am in the background. So, so in regards to sellers, that's the thing, definitely the communication. As far as buyers are concerned, I feel like, you know, most buyers are very intelligent. They're keeping track of what's going on in the market. And so you're not the only agent involved. They're agents too, kind of, sort of. And so you have to know that, they are paying attention. So don't come at them with, you know, information that's random or irrelevant. You have to really talk to them on your same level, because in a lot of cases they are. Not that they have our knowledge across the board, but they do have enough information that's a little bit dangerous. So I like to let them know that you know, what's going on in the market, and kind of like you said, with the interest rates going down. I don't think people know that. I don't think people realize that the interest rates did drop last week. That's not something that's in the news, because the media is always so far behind. And so it's important to give those tidbits of information to buyers so that they know they're not sinking in this market, because I'm sure a lot of them feel that way, because it's rough in these real estate streets for buyers, but it's not impossible. And we were lucky enough to close the transaction yesterday, and it was the simplest transaction we've had in a long time. I was like, thank you, Lord Jesus, you did it, because that last one was crazy. But, you know, it's like just keeping them aware of what's going on as well, and letting them know that, you know, it is still a good time. It's always a good time to buy and sell real estate. It just is. I mean, if you look at the prices over the years, I look back to the first house my mom bought when I was 5 years old. It was $17,000. That house is like 600 and something thousand the last time I saw it on the market. So it's never a bad time. It's, again, like Stacy said, if it's a good situation for you, because that's what's the only person that's important in that transaction, is if it works for you, if you have the funds necessary, the credit, the work history, all of that, if you have it, you should really go for it, because none of us has a crystal ball when it comes to the market, and you want to, you know, get in where you fit in. So there's my 2 cents.
No, that's very good. You know, one thing that when Blair was talking, that it reminded me of, and I neglected to say, is now when the market is kind of like where it is right now, it's not up, not down, and we really don't know what direction things are going to go yet, because the truth of the matter is we don't know. All of a sudden, you know, because they're staying. If depending upon what happens with the war, you know, particularly what happens, you know, with the economy, because the Federal Reserve is trying to quote unquote slow inflation. Depending upon how those things go, is that, you know, towards the end of the year we could boom back up again, depending upon how that works, because it just depends on who you talk to. But it doesn't matter. We need to help buyers and sellers, no matter what all of that stuff is doing. We have to do that. So one of the things I think that becomes even more of a key right now for both buyers and especially sellers is, what's their motivation? What's their motivation? You want to find out, do they have to move? Do they really want to move? Or are they, you know, just trying to see if they can get their price? And then you have to decide. I'm not telling you to work with them or not to work with them. If you've got buyers, and say that no matter what, the buyer wants to come in 5% off of every list price because interest rates are going high and there's nobody buying right now. That's what they do. Ain't nobody buying a house nowhere in the world right now. And when they start telling you, so is that somebody you still want to work with? Or someone, you know, if their motivation is different, because the motivation sometimes, as you provide the information that we've been talking about here, and changing the expectations, that will enable you to help them. Like if you have a still like the one I've just mentioned,
I know that they've been relocated, and I know that they're going to have to sell. They may be a little bit higher than what I want them to be right now. They're priced at where we would have been priced at if they'd have got the house on the market, but I told them to get it on. But they're higher than what I want them to be right now. But guess what? At the end of July, new job is calling, and their family has to be in West Virginia. They got to be in West Virginia. So they're going to sell this house, and somebody's going to sell it. So the more information that I give them, even if it becomes a situation to whereas if we're not getting activity and not getting offers, they are going to listen to me more than they're going to listen to the news, because they have to go somewhere. So just remember that. Remember your conversations with your buyers and your sellers to figure out and really listen and pay attention to their motivation, properly set up expectations for them. Kind of one of the things that Pilar just said too about the media. Remember, and I go, Mike's a stat guy, but remember his stats as far as us too. Our stats in real estate are in the rears. It takes 30 days to close escrow. Our stat, well, they don't have no stats on pending. I don't know if you guys noticed this morning though. If you haven't noticed, turn on the business channel, or it'll be on one of these finance pages before the end of the day. That home starts on brand new homes went down 17%. 17% haven't gone down. 17% have gone on it in a few years. Now, does that mean we're crashing? No, doesn't mean that we're crashing. But can you use that information and conversation with your client? Don't you think that my client, that is what I'm talking about, that I'm talking about may have to reduce their price? That isn't going to be part of a text that I send to them later this afternoon. Hey, did you guys see what's going on in the market? 17% down last month, just came out. You know, depending upon the activity we're getting, we may want to consider, you know, and you use that information. Use that information for you. Because like for my sellers, even if they hear that, that's not information they're looking to hear. They ain't looking to hear that. They're looking to hear the market is on fire. Somebody getting ready to buy my house for $100,000 more than what. And that's what all these agents are posting. Not all of them, but you know, a lot of agents are posting on it. I just sold that like they really did something. I went out and got my seller $80,000 more. No, you didn't. The marketplace did. What's going to happen is that we are going to get into situations to where your skill level is going to matter. Your skill level is going to matter, not just to put transactions together, but more importantly, to get them closed. So with that being said, and I do want to give a big shout out here before we get off to Miss Thompson, because she just closed her first EXP transaction. She's only been back with us, only been here, what, a month or 2 months, and has a whole lot of stuff in process. So we just want you to know we're proud of you and thank you. I want all you guys to keep attending the stuff. I appreciate you, so that you guys know, June the 9th, tell me if I'm wrong, Mike, I think it's June the 9th, we are doing another in-person EXP Explained. We're going to be at the IHOP again, and it will be at 10 o'clock again. I would encourage you to bring someone to the opportunity where you can let them be exposed to it, and or come yourself as well, so you can continue to learn more and more about the company and feel good about talking to others about it. Michael and I are going to be doing a training, once a month, maybe twice a month here on Zoom, and we are securing another location in the San Fernando Valley to also have presentations, and some of our trainings are going to be live and in person as well. They're not going to all be Zooms. We want to be able to have everybody reach out and mastermind and communicate a little bit better. We want to get more momentum going. We want our team, our success team, for everyone to have the opportunities to succeed at whatever level that they want to succeed at. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys again for spending a little time with us here. I hope that you got some value for it. I probably talked a little bit more of the mastermind than I had anticipated, but that's okay. You know, I'm sure you got a nugget out every now and then from maybe something that I said. And I want to thank you guys for your participation. Have a great rest of your week. And again, though, anybody needs anything, I am here. I am here for you to learn. I am here for you to to bounce ideas off of. And I'm also definitely here for you if you have questions and some stuff that you need on the agent attraction side as well. And when we come back from Florida, because we're going to shareholders, it's going to be on fire. So I come back and I'm like 2 or 3 octaves a little bit higher. Y'all might as well get ready, man, because I was on a presentation yesterday with Brent Gold. I was on 3 presentations. Before I let y'all go, I was on 3 presentations with Brent. I was on with him Monday. I was on with him yesterday that some of you were on. An hour after that, I was on with him for a different presentation. And then he called me toward the evening when I was meeting with somebody. Dude, my head feels like it's going to explode. But by the same token, think about this. We have someone in our team that's one of the top, not only money earners, but production people in all of EXP. We have someone that didn't start out this way. He's only been with EXP 5 years, that's generating a 7-figure a month income on residual income only. But what's important is that we have access to him, and he will reach out and call us. You can talk to him. You can chat with him. All of that. He's throwing a whole lot of love on our team. So we're in the right place at the right time. I want to thank you guys again. Have a good rest of your day. I'm gonna go out here and try to sell something just like y'all. And I see you guys soon. Okay. God bless everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Nice meeting you all.